Thank you, Inga. You just made sure I won't get my salary from tomorrow by saying I'm the initiator of Arise. Shell is hugely upset sitting there. Okay, uh, good afternoon, everyone. For me, just a little digression before I start. As Inga said, I've spent 13 years working for Norfund. Uh, um, Yesterday was my last day as head of department for financial institutions. Officially, I don't have a job today, uh, but I am the CEO designate of this new venture called Arise. I'm going to just spend a few minutes just telling you the Arise story. I could spend hours here because it's taken us a long time to come to this stage, but in 15 minutes, I'll try my best to cover the key features. Uh, I think the key is it's important just to talk about what is Arise. Um, I think the key for us is it's an open-ended investment company uh, targeting financial service providers in sub-Saharan Africa. Sub-Saharan Africa is a very important area for us. That's the area where nearly 70% of Norfund's investments are. And the key for this is the two words, investment and development. For us, they go side by side. Investment for us is largely the connotation for investment for most people is financial returns. You invest in something to get something back. And that's important. Also development. We've used the word development in this company very, very frequently, and it's just to remind us that is an equally important part of this whole venture. It's a partnership, and Shell pointed out in his presentation, between three partners, Norfund, Rabobank, which is a cooperative bank formed in the 19th century. It's one of the largest banks in Europe and is all over the world. And FMO, which is the Dutch Development Bank. And you know, I still wear my Norfund hat all the time. I don't think it's going to go away very easily. But you know, what makes all of us very proud in Norfund is that out of the three, we are the smallest in terms of size, asset base, what we do. But we were able to demonstrate our additionality in creating this venture, and we have a 48% shareholding in this venture as compared to the other two partners. I think that for us is so important to demonstrate what we've been able to do, especially over the last 10 years in Norfund. Its initial portfolio comes to nearly 660 million. Oh, I hate looking at the stock market, which dived a few days back, as you know, on different issues, especially in East Africa, and Shell did refer to that. And we expect this portfolio to grow to $1 billion over a period of 3 to 5 years. We have committed capital from the three shareholders, which is really important, and it's very important for the macroeconomic situation in sub-Saharan Africa to have investors who can demonstrate that they can commit capital legally over a period of few years. Our whole emphasis is to increase financial inclusion. That is the key for us. With financial inclusion, we think that you get economic development. We have a strong emphasis on rural development and on agriculture. So lots of good things here which we believe in. And of course, in our view, like Shell said, the road is bumpy, but at the end of the day, it's a road, and we have to move forward. So I think it's important to emphasize that. And we are a long-term player. We are committed to the long-term development in Africa. This is the agreed mission. I'm not going to spend too much time on it. A lot of it is already covered in my first slide. Emphasis again on economic growth, building strong financial service providers. And in the market, we want to be recognized as the leading and the most trusted development and investment partner for independent financial service providers. I think that's the key for us. That's what we want to build. We want to build on the expertise which we have in the three shareholders. This is a nice map. Yeah, I mean, I think it looks very crowded, but it just shows you that on day one, this new company has an existing portfolio spread over 20 African countries, and each partner brings its investments into this new particular vehicle. Some of these institutions are fairly large. They're fairly leading banks in institutions. We have the governor of the Central Bank of Zambia here. Arise would be a major investor in Zambia through Zambia National Commercial Bank. We have the chairperson of Zambia National Commercial Bank here, and she'll be speaking later. Banks like Equity Bank, which is the second largest bank in Kenya, a bottom of the pyramid bank with 10 million customers out of a bankable population of 20 million in Kenya. NMB in Tanzania, which is a strong rural agricultural-based bank, and a number of banks spread across the continent. So for us, it's a great start, and I think it's going to create, I think, a different presence in that market from what has traditionally been known over the last 100, 150 years in Africa. I think I'd just like to spend a few minutes telling you on what we think is needed in terms of ownerships of banks. I think the key is long-term capital and providing visibility and predictability. I think one of the biggest problems we've seen over the last few years in the financial sector in Africa is the vulnerability of capital, on the flows of capital which come in and out depending on the market situation. And currently we're experiencing a lot of headwinds. And I think for us this is the key. We are a long-term capital provider. Yes, we can have dips in our financial returns, but that is not our measure of success. So I think this is a very important element for us. We can provide access to additional capital funding when financial institutions are suffering. Most of the banks in Africa, outside the international banks and big regional players from South Africa, suffer from lack of capital. They're very vulnerable to exchange rate movements. They're very vulnerable to interest rate movements, and that really, really affects them. We have the ability to support larger banks and make scale an important element, and also to create new channels of distribution, like mobile and agency banking. The front of that is a bank like Equity Bank in Kenya, and we wish to take the same example to other institutions right across Africa. For us, we will talk about microfinance later, which is also very dear to me as a subject, but it's not scalable in that same sense as banks, and therefore that's why we created this second platform. I think I'd just like to give you a little insight on what we think are potential owners of banks. One is local owners, pension funds you'll find right across Africa, retail investors through stock exchange listings, family-owned banks. The biggest problem largely today is its limited liquidity and availability of funding. Whenever there's a downturn, there's a problem. We've had 3 banks which closed in Kenya recently. A lot of it was based on family banks which didn't have the ability to fund downturns in the economy. International banks, multinational banks, Shell referred to it slightly, a little bit about Barclays. We don't want to talk about specific institutions. Barclays has its own reasoning why the Barclays PLC wants to sell their Barclays Africa assets. A lot of it is influenced by regulators across the UK, Europe, and the US. In today's world of what they call money laundering, etc. And the US regulator is very concerned that if there's any slight problem, they don't want their institutions or people who work in those countries to be associated with it. So their options are fairly limited. They either downsize or they sell. So it's a problem for a lot of the multinational banks. Private equity funds, they're a very important vehicle for investment, but they have a limited investment horizon. They're required to exit. They have owners who need their money back, who need their returns. They are a good partner, but maybe in the medium term, but not completely in the long term. Portfolio investors are very volatile. do not provide active ownership. They move their funds in and out depending on what the market gives them. So the key issue is that not many investors can take a long-term anchor view. How do people remain there through all these troubled times? So I'd just like to spend a few minutes, not a few minutes, a couple of minutes on the active ownership model of Arise. I think like I said, the objective of Arise is to be a strategic anchor investor, have access to a large pool of capital, provide management support, and each of the parties in Arise provide something to the table. Norfund, very active in the Africa market, local offices, local knowledge, understanding on how the markets operate, been through all the ups and downs, and bring a lot of strength to this partnership, and can be demonstrated in the shareholding, which Arise has got. Rabobank or Rabo Development, which is that arm which invests in Africa, strong banking knowledge, strong agricultural experience, strong ability to provide technical services. FMO has been a development bank for 60 years, very strong capital base, and they largely provide debt support to financial institutions. And for Arise, the key is that it's an African-based institution. We've been very keen to stress that we are not a fly-in, fly-out operation. We don't work from European cities and come in when the weather is good in Cape Town, and we just want to have a barbecue in the sun. So we are focused. We're all 20-odd people who would be employed, would be all based in Africa. We would have a back office in Europe for treasury functions, but our operations are in Africa, and that's how Norfund is functioned, and that's how we've been able to impress upon our partners that that's the way we would do it. And we would support locally rooted banks. That's what our key is. We want to support local banks and see them grow. It's a bit of a crowded slide, but I just wanted to put out there, it's not controversial, but it's like saying, is Arise a new model of investment? Is it a model which is sustainable over periods where, as we saw in the opening presentations, the ups and downs of financial markets and Africa rising and not rising, and etc. We truly believe in it, and the proof of the pudding will be in the future. And this wheel, for me, really captures that. We provide capital, which is long-term, invest through different cycles. We have no exit pressures, where we have to return capital back with a fixed return. We don't need to go out to the market to fundraise, to fund growth immediately because of the strength of the shareholders. In terms of expertise, we provide deep industry knowledge. We provide networks on the ground. And we have a very strong value creation capability. We also have the ability to provide technical assistance. On influence, I think scale of investments leads to significant influence in these institutions. We can speak to the regulators. We can speak to other investors in those particular markets about our experiences and share them. And at the end of the day, we can maintain the local flavor of the bank. And that's the key. The essence is, I think, like Mr. Kosa said in his earlier speech, Africans are very proud people. They don't show it. They hate being told what to do. They may not show it. They're very polite. But in their hearts, I know, having lived there for 30 years, it's so important to recognize that you don't patronize people and that you make sure that they can be proud of themselves. And I think we will create an institution which is very deep-rooted in every African country. So all I can say in conclusion is that for me, this has been a very long journey with Norfund, and I'm very proud of the fact that with all the help of the people in Norfund, our board, other stakeholders in the ministry, our investment committee, we are able to create an entity like this. This is my third year. I've been standing on this podium. I'm still wearing the same tie. It was red in color, but hopefully I get a salary increase now and I can get another tie. But all I'll say is, for me, it's been a fantastic journey, and hopefully I'd see you again if Shell invites me again to a podium like this. But thank you very much, and have a great afternoon.